Now, a lot of people have been talking about the recent threats, death threats made against a journalist, Ilya Gaga. It's been rambling on, this story, for about 3 or 4 days now, and well, it's an interesting story because it may not necessarily be an isolated case. At least that's what Ilya Gaga seemed to imply recently. Now, you may recall this this guy. Here it is. Let's just put him up there. There he is. Now, this guy, Ilya Gaga, wrote an article called "Trouble with Thai Studies." Okay. What he basically said in the article was that most of the programs at Harvard University, the backers to these programs are actually Thai elite. He said that it was generals, aristocracy, wealthy families, etc., who were backing the programs at Harvard University, and they were presenting a distorted image of Thai politics. In fact, what he said, okay, and this is a quote from Ilya, he said, the people who back these programs, the Thai studies programs, are people who view political I can't read my own political participation as a threat to the privileges of the elite. Okay, that's what he said, and of course that hasn't gone down very well with some people. And if you recall, a research doctor at UCLA made a threat against the author of Troubles with Thai Studies. His name is the doctor who made threats is Peter Hemalajatta. Okay, now what Gaga is basically saying, and what I want to talk about a little bit, is that he was not surprised about the death threats made against him by Pira, because he is loyal, he is still loyal to the Thai king. Now, the implication there is that a problem with these people is that their attitude towards the king and their attitude towards critics of the king. They seem to display very little tolerance. Now, you may not know this, or maybe you do, but I've been having a quick look at my tweets, and I came across an interesting tweet from Andrew McGregor Marshall. Now, this guy here, the guy on the left, well, the guy on the right, well, you know who that is, of course. No need for me to mention. It's Aum, okay, the transsexual, who has been on the internet recently, making comments that have not gone down very well. Aum Neko, okay, the transsexual. We've all seen the videos, and they're very good and they're very funny. Okay, well, apparently there's been death threats against her too. Okay, and the guy on the left is the one who's been making the death threats. Okay, now this is becoming something of a mystery, because although it is known that he is an actor, very few people know who he actually is. I'll show you another photograph here. Now, this is a photograph that he himself has published, and you can see he's got some guns on the table. He's made a death threat against Aum. What's interesting about this guy, although he claims to be an actor or something, although nobody seems to know his name, he's got an awful lot of tattoos on his arms, which well, some people have suggested that he may actually be some type of hired killer, although not necessarily so. It doesn't mean that if you've got tattoos on your arm that you're necessarily a hired killer, but it is true that in Thailand most hired killers have got tattooed arms, from what I hear. Now, what we want to know, of course, is who is this guy? What's his name? What films has he made? Because he's supposed to be an actor, but I certainly haven't found his name. I certainly haven't got a clue about who he is, and why haven't the police acted on the death threats that he's been making. But it is interesting, though, isn't it? I mean, the followers of the Thai king seem to have this obsession with with making death threats against people who criticise the king. So maybe Ilya Gaga was right when he said that Pira made the death threats because he is still loyal to the Thai monarchy. Maybe this is some type of sickness that these people have, that they're so intolerant, so fanatical, that they make death threats against absolutely anybody, authors or critics, against absolutely anybody just for criticising the king. But they need to accept that people are going to criticise the king. The king has endorsed Prayut when he had the choice not to do it. He didn't necessarily have to endorse Prayut. He could have stood up for the constitution, and he could have stood up for Thai people and democracy, and refused to endorse Prayut as NCPO leader, and now as Prime Minister, of course, today. So the king deserves all the criticism that he gets, and these people have absolutely no right to make death threats against those who are simply expressing a perfectly valid point of view about the Thai king. If you do know who this guy is, this actor, if you've seen his face or you've seen something about him, those of you who are in Nopor, USA, could you tell me his name, please? Because I'd like to know. I think we should all know who it is that's making these death threats.